Hey guys, so this is our solutions video to the fascia problem that we just talked about in the previous video. So again, fascia is super important for how we move and how we operate as human beings, and unfortunately can also be a huge cause of pain and discomfort if it's not operating appropriately. So how do you know if you have a problem? Pain is a really good indicator that this is coming up for you, especially if it shows up really localized and it shows up really consistently, or with particular ranges of movement, like if every time you move your neck this way, like it really pulls somewhere. Like anything consistent like that is definitely a warning flag that there's some fascial issues going on. Decreased range of motion is another big one. If you're like, hey, I used to be able to check my blind spot and now I have to like whip my entire body around, that's another big one. So those are probably the two best indicators, is that decreased range of motion and if you have any consistent pain points showing up. So then the question, of course, is what do we do about it? Like, we have this dense fascia, it hasn't been moving well in a long period of time. We need to get to it. So just like we talked about in the previous video, there's two different spots that need to be considered for fascia. The center of perception, or the center of the pain, is usually the obvious one because that's the one that you're really feeling in your body. Now, this is the super important part that I'm incredibly excited about, because this was never taught to me in chiropractic school. Fascial research is a really hot topic in orthopedics right now, so this is all pretty new information. What needs to happen is you don't go to the site of pain when we're dealing with fascia, because again, we got this idea of there's a pull going on. The pull is creating the pain, but the pull is the actual issue. We want to get to that root cause of what's actually creating the issue. So that's going to be the center of coordination. Now, I've posted a link to a book in the comments, or excuse me, in the description, that has a really nice map of like the entire human body that has all these different centers of coordination that match up to centers of perception. So if you're like really excited about this idea and you want to look at it, definitely check out that book, because again, it has like the map for the entire body and you can really kind of reverse engineer this whole thing. But the idea here is you need to find that center of coordination that goes along with that pain or discomfort that you're experiencing. So once you know the area that you're dealing with for the center of coordination, that's where you get to work. Now, fascia is cool because again, it's kind of like this dried out sponge, but if we can get the right type of pressure and compression into it, it essentially squeezes fluid back in there, and it can, it's kind of like saran wrap that's been crumpled up, like it can kind of smooth the whole thing out. And once it has the hydration it needs, and once it's been smoothed out like it needs to be, then it's going to be ready to go and it's going to operate like it should. So again, your body doesn't really lose capacity to do things, but it can get to a state where it's not operating correctly, but it doesn't mean you can't get back. So this is something you can work on, and it's pretty cool because this is one that can change pretty quickly if you find the right points for yourself. So you may have heard of like myofascial therapy, you may have heard of ball rolling before. When we're talking about getting into the fascia, there's two ideas. One is you just like press right into the point, straight down, you hold and release. I'm going to recommend something a little bit different in terms of those two end goals, in terms of both rehydrating and smoothing out the tissue. And that's, you get the downward compression, but then you also get a roll over the top of it, or you stretch in the correct position. The book that I mentioned also shows like not only the points, but the direction that the force needs to go with arrows. So again, if you really want to dig into this, that book will be a great resource for you. But that's the idea. You need to get down into it, and then you also need to kind of roll it out at the same time. So that's what we're showing here, and what that's going to do is going to stretch the fascia a little bit more and allow more of that fluid to come back into place. So if you can work on this on a fairly consistent basis and start to get into those points that are really getting after you, you can again start to get to that root cause of your problem. So if you've been dealing with muscle pain, or you've been dealing with decreased range of motion for weeks, months, or even years, this is something I really encourage you to do, because you can do it at home. There's a few ways you can do it. There's myofascial therapists, there are people that are really highly trained in this kind of stuff that can do that body work for you. So that's awesome. What I've found for myself personally and for the people that I work with is that's like hard to do daily, obviously. So the other cool thing you can do is there is myofascial release balls. So we really like this company called Tune Up Fitness. I've also included that link in the description. You can find balls with like a few different sizes depending on the area that you want to work on. But again, the idea doesn't have to be too hard. Like for this area that we're talking about up here, like if you lean up against the wall and push into it and get a little bit of up and down motion in that correct trajectory that you're looking for, that's really all it takes. So it's kind of like if somebody's giving you a massage and you feel that area that is like, kind of hurts but kind of feels good. Like that's what you're looking for. So again, this is something you can work on at home really easily, like really low cost. So if you're starting with to work on something that's been there for a long period of time, this is like one of my best recommendations that you can do to start unwinding your body to work on that structural aspect of things. So check out the links in the description if you're interested. I really, again, highly recommend this to not only understand how important fascia is, But again, get that consistent work in where you can start to get a little bit of that mobility back, start to feel better, because again, our health can snowball in an incorrect position. Like if this tightens up, we're not moving correctly, the pain increases, you don't feel like moving anymore, it gets tighter, like it can snowball in a negative direction. The opposite is also true though. Like if you can start to open this up a little bit more, get some more of that range of motion in, like things can start to really go well, more quickly than you might expect. So check it out. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, or if you're dealing with any center of perception or center of pain and you don't know where that center of coordination would be, feel free to ask me. I'd be happy to give you some more information. So stay tuned for future videos. If you like the information here, make sure you subscribe. We're going to keep talking about more of these foundational issues that can contribute to migraine headaches, and make sure you can make that move that you want to in your life.